Wuxian bought a large assortment of knickknacks and other items in Sai Town, brought them back to the cloud recesses, and divided and handed them out to the other junior disciples. Because Lan Qiren had gone to Qinghe, there were no classes these days, and thus the crowd of youths got up to misbehavior and tomfoolery to darken the skies and blacken the earth. One after another, they crowded into Wei Wuxian and Zhang Chang's quarters and laid makeshift beds for themselves on the floor. They ate and drank all through the night, throwing dice with one hand while flipping through collections of salacious pictures with the other. One night, after Wei Wuxian had lost a game of dice, he was forced to sneak down the mountain to buy some jars of Emperor's Smile. At last, everyone completely satisfied their desire for food and drink. However, the next day, before the sky had brightened, while the floor was still littered with slumbering bodies, someone suddenly opened the door. The sound of the door startled some people awake, and through eyes still hazy with sleep, they saw the icy face of Lan Huangji at the entrance. The sight scared them wide awake. Wei Wuxian's head was draped over Niu Huisang's lower body, and the latter gave the former several frenzied shoves. Brother Wei, he cried. Having been pushed several times, Wei Wuxian said in a daze, Who else wants to come? Is it Zhang Chang? If he wants to join, let him join. Do you think I'm afraid of him? Zhang Chang's head still hurt from last night's binge, and he was still laying on the floor with his eyes closed. He reached backward, grabbing something, and hurled it in the direction of Wei Wuxian's voice. Shut up, he said. It flew toward the middle of Wei Wuxian's chest, its pages flapping open as it struck. Niu Huisang stared. The book Zhang Chang had thrown at Wei Wuxian was his most precious, out-of-print book of erotic pictures. Lifting his head again, Niu Huisang saw the chilly eyes of Lan Wangji and nearly vomited up his soul, while Wei Wuxian hugged the book, muttered a few words, and fell back asleep. Lan Wangji came inside and stepped over the other bodies. He grabbed the back of Wei Wuxian's collar and hauled him to the door, dragging him outside. After being lugged around for a while and experiencing a short bout of confusion, Wei Wuxian was finally half awake. He turned his head. What are you doing, Lan Chan? Lan Wangji didn't utter a single word as he continued to drag him onward. Wei Wuxian woke up a bit more, while the sleeping corpses lying on the floor were roused one by one. Upon seeing that Wei Wuxian was being carried away by Lan Wangji again, Zhang Chang rushed outside. What's going on? What are you doing? He asked. Lan Wangji looked behind him and spoke each word one by one, punishing him. As Zhang Chang had woken up still drunk, his reactions were sluggish. Only now did he recall the disarray within his quarters and the countless number of cloud recesses rules they must have broken last night. His expression turned stony. Lan Wangji hauled Wei Wuxian to the front of the Gusu Lan clan's ancestral hall, where 8 senior Lan clan disciples were already present, waiting quietly. 4 held incomparably long sandalwood discipline rulers, whose every centimeter was carved with rectilinear characters. The disciples' appearances were cold and grave, and upon seeing Lan Wangji dragging someone inside, 2 of them immediately walked forward, grabbed onto Wei Wuxian, and held him firmly to the ground. Half kneeling and unable to struggle, Wei Wuxian said, Lan Chan, are you trying to punish me? Lan Wangji stared at him coldly and was silent. I refuse, Wei Wuxian said. At this time, the not quite fully awake group of boys rushed over, but were blocked from entering the ancestral hall. Each fiddled with their ears and scratched their cheeks anxiously, and when they saw the disciplined rulers, they were scared speechless. To their surprise, they also saw Lan Wangji lift his white robes and kneel beside Wei Wuxian. Upon seeing this, Wei Wuxian paled in shock and did all he could to struggle out of the Lan senior's grasp. But Lan Wangji shouted, "Strike!" Wei Wuxian gaped. Wait, he hastily interjected. "I accept being punished. I accept, Lan Chan. I'm wrong. Ah!" The palms, legs, and backs of the pair suffered over 100 of the disciplined ruler's blows. Lan Wangji did not need anyone to hold him down. His back was as straight as an arrow from beginning to end, and his kneeling position was impeccable. On the other hand, Wei Wuxian howled like a wolf and wailed like a ghost, devoid of even an ounce of stoicism. The other visiting juniors stood around the scene, watching and grimacing in sympathy. After the beating was finished, Lan Wangji stood silently. He politely said goodbye to the disciples inside the hall and left, exhibiting not a single sign of injury. Wei Wuxian, however, was the complete opposite. Zheng Chang had to carry him out of the Lan ancestral hall across his back, and he cried out in pain incessantly the entire way. The juniors crowded around them like a swarm of bees. "Brother Wei, what's going on?" they asked. "Lan Zhan punishing you is hardly a surprise, but why did he get beat as well?" Wei Wuxian moaned and groaned as he lay draped over Zheng Chang's back. "Ah, I miscalculated," he said. "It's hard to explain." "Stop beating around the bush. What exactly did you do?" Zheng Chang said. "I barely did anything. Last night, after I lost the game of dice, remember how I had to go and buy Emperor's Smile?" "Don't tell me you ran into him again," Zheng Chang said. "You're exactly right," Wei Wuxian said. "I don't know why I have such rotten luck. When I was carrying the Emperor's Smile back, I was stopped and caught red-handed again. He must be watching my every move, day in and day out." Zheng Chang said, "You think everyone's as idle as you." And then I followed him so I could greet him. I said, "Lan Chan, what a coincidence. It's you again." Of course, he ignored me like before. But then, without saying a single word, he sent his palm flying at me. I said, "Hey, is this necessary?" And he told me that if guests violated the curfew too many times, they had to go to the Lan ancestral hall to be punished. So I said, "There's only the two of us here. If neither of us says anything, no one will know whether I broke curfew, right?" I promised him it wouldn't happen again, and since we were already so familiar, couldn't he cut me some slack? Everyone seemed unable to listen to this a moment longer. But Wei Wuxian continued. But he went all stony-faced and said we weren't familiar. Then he raised his sword and attacked me as though he didn't have any friendly feelings at all. I had to set aside the Emperor's Smile and do something about him. He chased me and was always only a hair's breadth behind. He was so fast I couldn't throw him off, no matter how hard I tried. In the end, I got fed up with being pursued, so I asked if he was really so determined to not let me go. "You really won't let me go?" He still said, "You will be punished." The group of youths listened, their hearts dangling with suspense. Wei Wuxian told the story with great gusto and aplomb, and completely forgot he was still on Zheng Chang's back. He passionately slapped Zheng Chang's shoulder and said, "I said fine," stopped fleeing, and threw myself at him head on. I caught him, wrapped my arms around him, and we tumbled outside of the cloud recesses walls. So both of us landed outside the boundaries of the cloud recesses together. The fall was so hard, I saw stars dancing before my eyes. Already dazed, Nie Huisang asked, "He didn't struggle free?" "Oh, he tried," Wei Wuxian replied. but my hands and feet were deadlocked around him. He couldn't have escaped if he wanted to. There was no way for him to climb up from my body, and he was as stiff as a board. I told him, "Now what, Lanchan? Now you're outside of the cloud recesses too. We've both violated curfew. You can't be strict on others, but make exceptions for yourself. After all, if you punish me, you have to punish yourself too. Everyone has to be treated equally. So now what?" Wei Wuxian continued. After he got up, his expression was horrible. I was sitting beside him, telling him that he didn't need to worry and that I wouldn't tell other people about it. Only the sky, the earth, and the two of us would know. But without a single sound, he left. Who would have guessed that this morning he'd do what he did? Zhang Chang, could you walk a bit slower? You almost threw me off. Not only did Zhang Chang want to throw him off, he practically wanted to throw him headfirst to the ground so hard it would leave a human-shaped hole. "I'm already carrying you," he said. "Stop being so picky." "It's not like I wanted you to carry me," Wei Wuxian said. Zhang Chang fumed. "If I didn't carry you, you'd be lying on the floor of the ancestral hall for the entire day. How shameless are you? Lan Wangji got hit 50 times more than you, but he managed to get up and leave on his own. And you still have the nerve to act like you've been crippled? I don't want to carry you. Get the hell off me." "I'm not getting off," Wei Wuxian said. "I'm a casualty." The crowd of people pushed and shoved each other along a little pathway made of white stones, and just so happened to encounter a passerby robed in white, carrying a tome. Astounded, Lan Xichen stopped immediately and smiled. "What's happening here?" he asked. Zhang Chang couldn't have felt more awkward and had no idea how to answer, so Nie Huisang beat him to it. "Brother Xichen, Brother Wei was punished by being hit over 100 times with a discipline ruler. Is there any medicine that could help him?" The person in charge of punishments at the cloud recesses was Lan Wangji, and Wei Wuxian seemed seriously injured. He was surrounded by a group of boys and had been wailing pitifully the entire time. Lan Xichen immediately approached. "Did Wangji punish you?" he asked. "Young Master Wei, are you unable to walk? What exactly happened?" Naturally, Zhang Chang was too embarrassed to talk about what Wei Wuxian had been up to. After all of them had egged him on to go and buy alcohol, and they all deserved to be punished as well. He could only speak vaguely. "It's nothing, it's nothing. It's not that bad. He can walk. Wei Wuxian, why haven't you gotten off yet?" "I can't walk," Wei Wuxian said, sticking out his red and very swollen palms. He complained to Lan Xichen. "So Wujin, your little brother's so ferocious." Lan Xichen examined Wei Wuxian's hand. The punishment does seem somewhat excessive. I'm afraid it won't heal in just 3 or 4 days. Zhang Chang didn't know that the beating had actually been so harsh. Startled, he said, "What? It'll take longer than 3 to 4 days? They even struck his back and his legs. How could Lan Wangji be like this?" His final sentence contained an unintentional note of dissatisfaction, and only after Wei Wuxian surreptitiously slapped him did he realize it. But Lan Xichen seemed to pay it no mind. Smiling, he said, "However, the injuries are not so severe that they require medication. Young Master Wei, I will tell you a way to deal with them within only a few hours." At the cloud recesses cold springs that evening, Lan Wangji was soaking in the ice-cold spring water with his eyes closed, meditating, when suddenly he heard a sound beside his ear. "Lan Chan." Lan Wangji's eyes flew open. Sure enough, where Wuxian was lying on a slab of limestone beside the cold springs, head tilted to the side and smiling. "How did you get in here?" Lan Wangji blurted out. Slowly, Wei Wuxian crawled up. "Xiao Jun let me in," he said, while removing the sash around his waist. "What are you doing?" Lan Wangji asked. Wei Wuxian kicked off his boots, removed his clothes, and threw them everywhere. "I took off all my clothes, and you're still asking me what I'm doing here. I heard your clan's cold springs can do more than calm people and help with cultivation. They can also heal wounds. So, your older brother let me come in here and soak with you. But it isn't very nice of you to come here by yourself, or honest. It's so cold." The ice-cold spring water bit into his bones as soon as he entered. Hastily, Lan Wangji put a few meters of distance between them. "My purpose here is cultivation, not healing. Stop randomly throwing yourself around," he said. Wei Wuxian said, "But I'm so cold, so cold." This time, he didn't actually intend to behave outrageously or bother Lan Wangji. Outsiders had a difficult time getting used to the Gusu Lan clan's cold springs, and if a newcomer was stationary for even a short period of time, their blood and limbs would freeze. Consequently, Wei Wuxian had to keep flopping around and floundering everywhere in order to warm himself up. Lan Wangji, who had been cultivating in perfect tranquility, fell victim to Wei Wuxian's erratic motions. His face was soon covered with wet spray. The droplets followed his long eyelashes and raven black hair as they slid down. He couldn't endure it any longer. "Stop moving," he said. As he spoke, he reached out his hand and pressed down on Wei Wuxian's shoulder. Immediately, the boy felt warmth rush forth from the place their bodies connected. The cold became far more bearable, and he involuntarily scooted toward Lan Wangji. On guard, Lan Wangji said, "What are you doing?" "I'm not doing anything," Wei Wuxian said innocently. "It just seems like your side is a bit warmer." Lan Wangji's palm pressed firmly against him, preserving the distance between the two. His voice was harsh. "Impossible." Initially, Wei Wuxian had wanted to move closer to Lan Wangji so that it would be easier to talk to him and worm his way into a friendship. But not only was he prevented from approaching the boy, Lan Wangji's responses also offered no amusement. However, Wei Wuxian wasn't angry. He glanced over at Lan Wangji's palms and upper back, and indeed, his injuries hadn't healed. When he said he hadn't come here to recuperate, he had been telling the truth. "Lan Chan, I really admire you," Wei Wuxian said sincerely. "After I told you that you had to punish yourself too, you actually did it. You didn't let yourself off at all. I can't argue against that." Lan Wangji closed his eyes again and was silent. Wei Wuxian spoke once more. "I'm telling the truth. I've never seen anyone as upright as you, who says something and means it like you do. I definitely couldn't act like that. You're amazing." Lan Wangji continued to ignore him. Once Wei Wuxian no longer felt cold, he began swimming around the cold springs. After swimming for a while, he still couldn't help but paddle in front of Lan Wangji. "Lan Chan, did you figure out what I was trying to do earlier?" he asked. "No," Lan Wangji replied. "Really? You didn't know? I was kissing up to you, so you'd be my friend." Lan Wangji side-eyed him. "What are you trying to accomplish?" he asked. "Lan Chan, I'm just trying to make a new friend. We're already so familiar." "We are not." Wei Wuxian slapped the water a few times. "You're so boring when you behave like this," he said. "Really, being my friend comes with lots of benefits." "Such as?" Lan Wangji asked. Wei Wuxian swam to the side of the spring and leaned against the limestone, his arm resting over it. I'm always very loyal to my friends. For example, when I get a new book of porn, I'll absolutely let you look at it first. Hey, come back. You don't have to look. Have you ever visited Yunmeng? It's a really fun place, and the food's really good. I don't know if this is a problem with Gusu or the cloud recesses, but for whatever reason, your clan's food is way too unappetizing. If you come to Lotus Pier, you'll be able to eat all kinds of delicious things. I'll take you to pig lotuses and water chestnuts. Lan Chan, will you come? No, Lun Wangji said. Do you really have to begin so many of your sentences with no? It sounds so cold, so unfriendly. Girls won't like it. Let me tell you, the ladies of Yunmeng are very pretty, but in a different way than in Gusu. Wei Wuxian winked at him, pleased with himself. Are you really not going to come? Lun Wangji paused for a while, but still said no. By rejecting me like this, you aren't even putting up a polite pretense, Wei Wuxian said. Aren't you afraid I'll steal your clothes when I leave? Out, Lun Wangji shouted.